General legal disclaimer. All views and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of the host and guest. The material presented is for entertainment purposes only. Nothing presented is a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatments. The host and guests are not liable for errors and omissions. Please pursue any actions solely at your own risk. All right, nowadays, that has become a necessity. Let's begin the show. Keeping it real.
This meeting is being recorded.
By the FBI. Special treat today. I want to discuss psychedelics because they have become mainstream now. I have, as I said, a special guest here. Daniel joins us today. He fits the definition some would call a psychonaut, an explorer of consciousness, sometimes through altered states. His years of research and experience have given him a rare understanding of the mind, plants, and natural remedies beyond the layman's point of view. I'm totally excited to cover this topic because I have a very minimal amount of knowledge regarding this. And I know you are an untapped resource of depth on this. So I don't even know where to start.
I got something to kick off with. It's a quote from a guy, and he is by far the most influential voice in my life regarding psychedelics. This guy by the name of Terence McKenna.
Oh, everybody knows Terence McKenna, whether you know psychedelics or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, old Terence, he's not with us anymore. And I have listened to hundreds of hours of him on audio. You can find a lot of his stuff, his old recordings of when he'd get together. But his quote goes like this, man. Psychedelics are the descent of an angel into the desert of reason. And I think what he means there, or what I take him to mean there, is psychedelics turn everything on their head. Psychedelics turn all the experiences that you've gathered in life, and it just kind of shakes you up in a little dice thing and just tosses you out there. And hopefully you'll land on your head by the time, which is landing on your feet, right? Landing on your head is landing on your feet in the topsy-turvy world.
Right. The upside down world.
Yes. Yes. The world of Alice in Wonderland, man. I think the guy that wrote Alice in Wonderland may have been an addict of, it was an inhalant that was used for medicinal reasons. Actually, it's featured in that movie, the English Teacher or whatever. It's called, not as common as it used to be, but definitely a psychedelic drug.
I tell you one thing you may not even know, but I bet you this is going to be fascinating for you. The 12-step program that people that are abusers of narcotics and alcoholics and stuff like that go to, the inventor of that program started it based off a psychedelic experience he had.
Experience, yeah.
Is that not crazy?
I think that's covered in this book. This is
the Divine Spark.
Yeah,
I love Graham Hancock.
Yeah. So Graham, I think I got a few of his books out here. Are you familiar with one that he did, man?
Oh, yeah.
Game.
And Robert Bauval, yeah.
Okay, so this is a deep dive with Robert Bauval, right? So Robert Bauval, so that's these two guys, they teamed up on this book right here.
You got some good books, bro.
Yeah, I've got everything that he's ever done.
And this is also this is beyond just psychedelics. We're talking about alternative history through these guys. What most people should consider the real history, because there's gatekeepers out there trying to make us believe in a certain paradigm that's not actually true. If you examine the evidence through Graham Hancock, Robert Bauval, some of these other people, they find connections and things that are so deep, and they find psychedelics linked to lots of the stuff that people were doing in ancient times. And it's fascinating.
I think they find a lot of popular history is made by people who need history stables for profit, right? Yeah, I was about to just blast one. You need, like, you don't want history being dug up and made ugly, because it'll start disturbing market forces. What family was involved with what slave trade in 1795? Like, dun, 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 we're not buying from their family. It turns out that they own, like, whatever major corporations. Whatever. Yeah, so you'll actually find that a lot of Bauval and Hancock were influenced by this guy.
Oh, Manly P. Hall,
And
33-degree Mason.
Yeah.
So broke loose and started telling you everything that was at the upper echelons. Yeah. Yeah.
With this book.
He started telling everybody what he was not supposed to be talking about. Because it's not easy to become a 33-degree Freemason.
No. And this is another one, dude. If you're not familiar, it's not Hancock, it's not Bauval, and it's not Manly P. Hall. But this is a really good read right here.
Mark Booth, The Secret History of the World. Yeah, I've never heard of that one.
Yes. Yeah, it's a really I've read it probably 3 or 4 times, because it's like a book within a book. It's interesting. It gets kind of difficult to read, though, because he's constantly making references to other works. It causes you to be distracted by trying to figure out who he's referencing, and you don't really catch his point. Like, it's very, very weighty in points. It almost needs like an American editor. He's one of these really sharp British guys that just writes over your head. But nonetheless, it's worth the read because of his in-depth knowledge of what I would call occult history, like alternative history, like the occult side of history, or perhaps the side that wasn't so persuaded by profiteering reasons related.
That's it.
To,
I mean, you could just
court and queen.
Simplify it. It's always money. There's a money side of things that motivates and persuades a certain paradigm. And if you don't adhere to it, then you're rejected by the mainstream academics, and you don't get any funding for any of your research, any books, nothing like that. So that's the way it goes.
Well, yeah, as soon as the story that dominates culture becomes stronger than whatever power structure wants the story to be. That's what happened in the 60s. LSD said, fuck you. And people said, no, I won't join the military. Matter of fact, I'm going to move to California and not wear any clothes. You know, that's like drugs made people say that. Okay. Let's just get it straight. Okay. So, I mean, but it also coincided with the oppressive nature of what the shit that was coming downhill. It took the power of LSD to fucking smash right through that shit and say, no, you're not sending us to Vietnam anymore. Or no, you're not going to be shooting college kids on a Kent State campus. Like, it's interesting how the drugs of choice have coincided with the pressures of culture. Like, it's no mystery that 1980s Wall Street coincided with the highest use of Colombian cocaine all at the same time.
Bam.
Because those guys were just working their little greedy fingers off. You know what I mean? And what was the hottest commodity that was not on Wall Street? Ironically, cocaine. Ironically, the growth, like the best selling commodity in the fucking world is cocaine. And it's not selling on Wall Street. What powers Wall Street? Like, that was Like that's the funny part of the whole funny Wall Street movies in the 80s.
And that's one of those things. If you want to get into the reality of the world, then you can get into the Bill Clintons and George Bushes and Barry Seals and them actually bringing it into America to be distributed here because they wanted it here. Because there is a way of not only just making money, it's just you influence the public, you influence culture with it.
Yeah, crack was definitely introduced to Los Angeles by the CIA. I mean, that's been revealed now. I forget what the operation name is, but what was the street name of that kid? It was turned out it was Rick Ross. The original Rick Ross was
the real Rick Ross. Yeah,
he's the real deal. I think he's had a little special now or some kind of clear up his name or let the world know that he was the first cocaine OG that was running around Compton selling crack. No, I don't know. That's what I want to be popular for. But
there's lots of ties to the government, even going back to like the 60s. You were mentioning about LSD and stuff like that. Well, the government was actually during the 50s and 60s and a lot of different decades we can talk about using the MkUltra, trying to perfect mind control. And LSD actually unleashed a lot of love and help people do soul searching and become more connected with their soul and the hunt for spiritual side of themselves. And that's kind of what you were talking about made them objective to war. We don't want war. We want love. We want to get in our Volkswagen Bug and drive around loving on everybody, smoking weed and doing LSD. So it didn't turn out that the mind control thing worked.
Ironically, like whatever the CIA was trying to do with disturbing Central and South America, just coup after coup of disturbing what they call banana republics that were starting to appear communist, right? And the CIA would go in there and equip some guerrilla warfare guys to go assassinate who is in power. And then we would take the favorite strongman and just prop him up as the next king or presidente or whatever for a while, as long as didn't sell any cocaine. But the CIA.
It's all about making deals and getting the right person that you have a contract with, you have a deal with, do this and we'll put you in power. And, there's so much to track down and go through. I mean, each separate occasion you've mentioned is probably another hour or two discussion at least, because there's so many parts to it.
Oh, what was the, who is the fella that, I think I have some of his stuff written down, David something. He's the one that released this book that he worked on for 25 years. He was featured on Rogan about 2 years ago.
About Charles Manson?
About Charles Manson.
I knew exactly what you were about to say. He followed it all. Once he started digging into it, he couldn't stop because there was more and there was more and there was more.
Actually, I follow him on Instagram. He has an Instagram handle. He has all these interesting CIA connections for Charles Manson, and apparently the MkUltra went back to Charles Manson maybe in his late teens.
Yes.
He'd already been and was in foster homes. Somehow this Manson was like a ward of the state even, and somehow this guy got Manson to basically be a guinea pig for various LSD injections over time. They just kind of wanted to see what could we turn this guy into? What could he become with the ego unleashed? What I almost think that it was done on purpose so he would become a menace to society almost.
Well, that guy even proved that he was released from prison by the FBI.
Was released. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really close to it. I'm scrolling through my people here.
It's fascinating, man. It's fascinating. And it's an unknown part of history. Everybody just thinks Charles Manson was a psychopathic, murdering cult leader, but nobody seems to know that the government was involved in prodding him along, giving him drugs, giving his followers drugs, all for experimental purposes to see what would happen. What could they do? What could they accomplish? What would happen?
Yeah. So it was Tom O'Neill. This guy, the author's name is Tom O'Neill, and the book is called Chaos. And basically, Charles Manson was this propped up thing that a couple of rogue doctors, a couple of mad scientists would erase Charles Manson's criminal history every time he would get locked up for this or that petty things.
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't until the murders. He didn't actually physically commit the murders that happened.
He talked his followers into doing it. Supposedly. I mean, and that's all we know is that he talked them into going and doing it.
Wasn't there some other bodies found out in the desert? Like
that's where you're going to go further than I know, because I don't know all the little dirty details of everything that happened. And again, that's another one I remember, dive into that could take forever to uncover all the stuff about it.
Yeah. But the Tom O'Neill book, Chaos, it's top notch.
I mean, since we're talking about psychedelics, you got to bring up MkUltra because it was involved in lots of stuff. And one of the things that lots of people don't know is it was involved heavily in Charles Manson's life and his followers. I mean, it's true.
Like, I think it's a good lesson of like, I think drugs are bad. Okay, I'm like, this is what happens. This is what.
I bet the government's bad. I'm not going to blame drugs.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I'll blame the government on that one.
I just, dude, everything to this day can someone please tell me, like, who are the good guys in the CIA? Like, is there a good guy club?
If you want to examine the government, everything is so very strategically, boxed off to where it's so hard for one person to know what the next person is doing. And you can't figure out necessarily as an outsider who is the good people, who are the bad people, because that is their way of shielding themselves. I mean, by simply segregating every individual, making sure they don't talk to each other about their individual cases, what they're doing, all that. It makes it where they can run all sorts of different scandalous operations without the next person even knowing it.
I think they call it a need to know basis. This information is on a need to know basis.
Yes, definitely classified.
That's pretty powerful. But you think about it, like, it's amazing that our government can withhold such important information for the reasons that they can do it for. Let's say 110% there are, alphabet entities in our government that interact with alien entities.
Very relevant to talk about right now.
Reasons that this is not, and the reasons that's not shared with the public are all psychological reasons. The fear of what people could do if the curtain was pulled back, right? It's kind of like what psychedelics do in a small ways. They kind of lift back the curtain and kind of like take you to the edge and like, hey man, this is your life. Like, are you happy with it? Because you could change it if you really wanted to. Like, you could face some things and change it. Like what if
it's like you
have to face the truth that there is more, or that we're not alone, or that we're just right in the middle of evolved beings that are interacting with planet Earth. I don't know. Could be. Maybe.
Sometimes I think
I hope so. See, that's what I think. It's like,
it'd be great. It'd be cool. I mean, there's no factor there that I can say is good or bad because I don't know. Just like you, I don't know. But that's the enlightening factor of you talking about psychedelics is it expands your mind. It opens your viewpoint to where you can see things, you can experience things, not just necessarily it's visual. It's something you feel.
yeah,
It's something that is, it's so different than anything else. When you go to an out of body experience and you leave this corporeal vessel of flesh that you're sitting inside of, you go, there is this much that I can see, hear, taste, touch, feel. It's such a small spectrum of what the world is. The light spectrum is like, it's this big and we see in like this much of it. The sound spectrum is this big and we hear in this much. If you look at everything, it's like we're tuned into a very small spectrum to exist as a human being. So what's all that other spectrum for? It wasn't created for nothing. So when you get into a psychedelic experience, do you feel like all of a sudden you can experience more visual? You can experience more. You can hear more. You can smell more. You can see things different.
Well, some of those things, and let's just talk about psilocybin, the mushrooms, a psychedelic that just naturally occurs.
Amen. Me too.
Because that's what we've evolved. That's what we've evolved using. The fact that we can actually successfully ingest these things and utilize them for such a useful purpose, like it makes me laugh every time I have a mushroom trip and I start to get those little giggles. You know, they happen. Like you start to get happy. It just cracks me up that you can eat something like this and it actually works this good. Like, there's just not a lot of things that can do that for you.
I think we have these receptors.
It should be, we should be.
One thing I want to point out to you, you talking about natural stuff, nature always coincides with receptors that our body has, like weed. We have these different CBD, CBG receptors, THC receptors. We have them for a reason.
Like we have the whole cannabinoid system.
Yes. And if you have them inside you, then you were meant to count
cannabinoids.
Yeah. So your body is meant to react with that substance, just like it is with psilocybin. Now they can make chemicals in a factory, in a lab, and do all these things, but they don't do the same thing as a natural product because it doesn't have all the cofactors and the things nature built in for it to work the way that it's supposed to. So you end up with side effects usually.
I think in the world of DMT, which I have zero experience with, but from whatever I've listened to,
sounds wild.
The guy who wrote DMT, The Spirit Molecule, I've read his book and I've watched the documentary film. I know he did a trial on humans in 1995 in Arizona. I think it was like Scottsdale or Flagstaff to be precise.
Mm-hmm.
And they injected people.
Whoa, injected?
And you should check this out, man. Hit it up. It's called DMT, the spirit molecule. And the reason why this stuff always caught my eye at the bookstore is because they use the art of Alex Gray, who
he's a phenomenal psychedelic artist, right?
And Tool so much. Correct. And his work in Lateralis, it's like this shamanic character, and you can see all these chakras, and he's got these double snakes moving around him, and these little fire guys start to come. I think that's like his soul or something, or the spirit comes through his like nut chakra and starts going all the way up through his body. But that art is used on the opening to the front cover of the book. And it's used on the documentary film, has it on there as well. So that always caught my eye a long time ago. Like psychedelics has been in my mind. So that was like 1997 when I first saw that book in Austin at a bookstore on 6th Street, that probably isn't there anymore. It was like a 3-story bookstore. Like bookstores used to be a good place to find a lot of fun stuff. But whatever.
Yeah, books have kind of died in popularity because of the internet.
Yeah, that's true. It's amazing though, the business of like scholastic, like you have to publish, right? Mm-hmm. So like for scholasticism or like people who care about that kind of stuff, they're always going to be publishing new material there to be consumed that you have to pay money to look at on the internet.
There's always going to be people consuming books. It's just, readership definitely is going down as time goes on. More and more people want, sounds like a badass book. Do you got the audio book? Can I listen to it? They don't want to read it.
Yeah. The audiobook for sure.
So it would, we're ended up talking about a lot of different substances, and you mentioned psilocybin being like one of the ones you had like a majority of experience coming from this magical natural element that comes up out of the earth that in my mind should never be illegal, should never be scheduled. And it's getting closer and closer to being, free for all to use. And definitely in the medical world now, they're starting to use it for therapeutic benefits that it can help people with. So I want to know what you think about it.
I would say that my first uses of psilocybin, which didn't come until the age of 30, by the way.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've never, I probably never looked hard for them. You know what I'm saying? Like
they found you.
I didn't have, I think I didn't have enough courage to do so beforehand. And so I
can relate
in, and I think my first experiences with them, I said, were probably more like therapy. Couldn't believe how beautiful everything was that I was just taken in. Like I just felt like the earth was talking to me, like just through this language that wasn't speaking. The earth. I just turned into the biggest hippie at that point, and I use that for the lack of a better word, other than like
it's a beautiful way to put it, Daniel.
To me, it's a feeling. It produces the feeling of love. And I don't know if it's making those chemicals that produce love, but it makes you want to be a better giver and receiver of love and like be a better person. It just made me realize like the conviction over it was totally about you need to let certain people love you. You're not letting certain people love you the way that they would want to love you. And it's causing a problem. Like I tripped for 4 hours, right? Tumbling through 3D donuts, right? It was hilarious. Dude,
true reports are always fun.
The point of it, the point of the trip is to make you feel absurd in your body so you will listen to the wisdom that comes up out of your heart at the end of it. There'll be a 1 or 2 line thing that says, stop being this way, or love your neighbor better, or stop yelling at your kid, or it'll be something even more powerful. Like it can get even more spiritual, basically. Like I
It's
call
like
this
therapy.
the logos. I call this like, it's like therapy. It's like therapy, and your soul is like basically trying to give you your spiritual medicine, like your instructions, like your doctor instructions. It'll be like, quit driving so fucking fast. It'll be that simple, and you'll feel convicted over it. If your heart's open about it, well, that's really true. Like I should quit being an asshole when I drive. I should stop riding people. That's not cool. Like shrooms are that simple and that reasonable at the same time. Like,
but it's a revelation. It's a revelation just for you. It's specific. That's the main thing I notice about everybody that ends up having a trip.
Yes.
Whatever message they're delivered is exactly what they needed to hear if they're open to hear it.
You just said if they are willing to hear it. Okay.
Right.
This is the final rung of having a successful trip. Is, you may have to go down like a memory lane you don't want to. Like sometimes this happens to me, like I get fixated on a certain person that I know, and it's like, what, why? And it's like, I'll remember something, or I feel like I can almost recall like past emotions during trip or something like that. Like I'll recall some hurt, and I'm meant to like relive it so I can like get through it and see, and experience some sort of like level of victory or something like that. It's weird how for me, like I'll work through things in the past to almost like replant positive memories so I can experience that in the future. That's how shrooms can work things out.
I believe a lot of the psychedelics can, and I think psilocybin is one of the best for it. And I believe there is like some kind of release from you going back through some traumatic or difficult experience you had in your life and letting it go, just reliving it. Maybe it's horrifying, maybe it's terrible, but you can be calm and come to grips with it and accept it for what it is, and then release it.
So you just said, "Oh, well done." Prepared to come to that situation during mushrooms. I'm not going to say if you eat 2.5 grams at a music festival, you're going to break down crying. You might. Depends on what song you hear. What but most likely it won't. Most likely you'll just be completely asphyxiated by the reflection of the light in the puddle and why it looks like it's going in slow motion. You know what I'm saying? Right. That's where probably most people would get on 2.5 grams of, if you're around a bombardment of fun. But the ego can be challenged during mushrooms for sure. If you looking in the mirror is probably not a good idea.
Dude.
Like
yes.
It can be really challenging. Looking in the mirror is not, because it can, I don't know. It's almost like you're not ready to not be able to control the thoughts about the reflection that you see in the mirror. It's really hard to control the thoughts about what you see. It's almost as if you're not quite in control of that. So it's just not a good idea. It's much better to light a candle and look at a candle.
Oh, a beautiful dancing flame, something natural like that. Or like you talked about being in nature. The first psilocybin, and it's still the only psilocybin experience I've ever had is the one that you bestowed upon me. I don't know if you remember giving me 5 grams so many years ago, and I was stupid enough to do them all at the same time because I thought it wasn't a big deal. and I went to another universe. And
That's those dose, man. Yeah.
I tried to gag myself and puke. When it started coming on about 30, 40 minutes after I ate them, the whole world started changing around me. It's like my view opened up to this like panoramic view that was so far beyond what I could normally see. And I started feeling everything different. I was like, oh, fuck this. I could feel it coming on inch by inch every minute, a little more, a little more. And I was like, I went to the bathroom and I started trying to puke. I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I felt the loss of control. My ego said, get rid of this, get rid of it. So I started trying to puke in the toilet, and then the toilet started moving. The carpet below the toilet started moving. And I was like, sit down. I sat down on the toilet and I started looking, and the wall started moving. And I did exactly what you said don't do. I got up and I looked in the mirror, and my face, it started morphing and doing, and it didn't look
off. Yeah.
It didn't look like me anymore. It started changing, and the light started coming out of portions of my face and weird stuff. And I was like, that's not even me.
Yeah.
And I can't look at that. And then I turned around. I was like, I got to get the hell out of here. I got to stop this somehow. And I looked out the window and I saw a tree, and it was like, it was in slow motion. It was saying, come out here and join me. And the sunlight was glistening like I'd never seen it before. And it was like saying, come on, I'll help you out. Just come on outside.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's what I remember Daniel telling me, is being outside is where you need to be when you do this. So I ran outside, and I don't think I ran because I was so fucked up. I was like, I didn't even remember how to walk. I was like a little child trying to move.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I ran. I'd say I ran, but I didn't run. But I got outside at the fastest way I could because I was scared shitless. And all of a sudden, it's like the grass, the trees, the weeds, everything was talking to me like they were my friends.
Yeah.
And it's the most retarded thing to say to anybody. They're going to say you're a fucking idiot, but you don't realize there is consciousness in life, I believe, in everything except we can't communicate with it on the wavelength we are in everyday life. I got down on the ground and started talking to the grass. I was face first in the grass talking to him, saying, how's it going, my friend? I was having a conversation with the grass. I went and hugged a tree and started talking to it, and it was talking to me. It wasn't audible, but I felt it saying things to me. And then the sky was so beautiful. And then I fell back, and I felt like I was floating, even though I was touching the ground, laying on the ground. And this overwhelming flood of love came over me, and I started bawling. Like my eyes just started tears everywhere. And I said, I have never felt this in my life before. I don't ever want to come back from here. I never wanted to come back.
I know I can't believe you did that on your first go.
It was I'd say it was a mistake. I'd say it was a mistake, but it turned out okay. But it scared me so bad.
So that's what Terrence McKenna refers to as the hero's dose, right? The 5 grams.
Well, you told me not to do it, but I made the mistake.
But you said kung fu. I got this. It's amazing.
I was you wild and crazy.
I'm glad that you found the earth.
I just remember you saying nature. I just remember you saying go be in nature if you do it, and I didn't think about it. I was trapped inside, and it was like I was in a horror show. My senses were overwhelmed, and I was so freaking scared. It was worse than any horror movie that you could ever watch. I can't explain it, how I felt. But if I wouldn't have looked out that window and heard Mother Nature calling to me, and then remembered Daniel said, go outside. Go outside. If I wouldn't have done that, I would have probably had the most horrible 4 to 6 hours of my life, but it turned out to be magic. And then when I got outside and finally I hit my back and I closed my eyes, I went on this journey through the universe, and it ended up I came back and I went inside the cortex of my brain, and I saw things that weren't supposed to be there. And I asked them to leave, like hateful things. And there were like eyes that were in there that were looking at me. And I was like, you're not supposed to be here. You need to leave. And I just remember after it was all said and done, it's like, I was more grateful to be alive. I appreciated everything that was alive around me more.
Wow.
You know, and it made my life better because of it.
That is a powerful story, man. That's amazing.
And yeah, I hadn't really shared that with a whole lot. It's thanks to you, bro.
I'm processing all that right now, man. That really, dude, that has to be going back what? That has to be going back 10 years or something, maybe?
No. Probably about 5 years. 6 tops, but it was transformational. It altered the way I view life now, because I realize we walk around thinking this is it, this mundane life, the way we see things. Not that I don't appreciate it. I still do appreciate life, but I realize that we're living in such a small spectrum of what life really is. There's so much more than we see.
I totally agree. It's hard to put into words what you experienced during that, because I feel like the experience is layered with information that cannot be conveyed through our compressed air words. Back to psychedelics possibly unlocking latent abilities in our bodies that we don't really understand. We might be experiencing things on an electromagnetic level, my guess.
Hell yeah, dude, because we are batteries.
So we're absorbing. Yeah, we are. We're absorbing information, like electromagnetic information.
Dude, you're talking my language, dude. Because everything's electric. Hell, the Schumann resonance the Earth puts on, every living being has an electronic resonance. How did you get into it?
I got into that, man, or how I found out about that was essential oils. Matter of fact, you should have an essential oil book.
This is another thing I wanted to talk to you about.
There's one particular family of essential oils that I think is the most interesting, and
tell.
They're ones that they're high. There's a particular molecule that is called sesquiterpenes. They are like an oxygen saturated molecule.
Oh, this is interesting.
Frankincense, okay.
Hell yeah.
Sandalwood. All these historically significant essential oils.
Yeah, you're going biblical Egyptian times, all that.
This is your limbic system, right? The seat of your third eye. Well, essential oils have been used since time immemorial for all kinds of religious services, especially frankincense. And also, I just thought of another author. He was featured on Rogan, also with Hancock at the same time. I have it saved in my phone. This guy finally, he wrote a book. Actually, it's a PhD on the use of psychedelics in ancient Greece. And they have located what was called ergot. It comes from it's been found that it was used in certain ceremonies that would happen like once a year, where parishioners would drink this juice
They would ferment this stuff to produce the ergot, right? Yeah.
Correct. And they would make the parishioners go through this experience through a temple, right? Kind of experience like life and death and rebirth, because they would be tripping balls. People that were kind of like in on the seek, it would be dressed up like monsters that would represent types of fear.
What a way to enhance the situation.
And also, right. It's covered in several books, but I think this one talks about that. Or I have another one over there too. This is we talked about this.
I love Graham Hancock so much, man. Psychedelics were used by ancient culture.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. it's pretty darn obvious.
But he just wants to. He'll say stuff, other academic will.
The famous anointing oil that's referred to in the Old Testament.
I thought that was frankincense.
So it is full of frankincense and cannabis oil.
Oh, what?
Full of gladness. I think it's referred to in Psalms. Yeah, so Psalms would be like the oldest reference to it.
What?
Probably the ones that are written by like Moses and Aaron, or the oil of gladness. That's probably
gladness.
References to that would probably be somewhere like in the oil of gladness. So yeah,
I've never heard of that.
What happens if you rub cannabis oil and are you serious?
I've never heard of gladness. You don't have to prove it to me. I believe you. I know you. That's why I wanted to talk to you about all this stuff.
Okay.
Stuff I don't know. So they rubbed this on people during biblical times, ceremonially, and I was sure it had an effect on them. Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, big time. It got rubbed on all the priests, and then of course after they got the stuff rubbed on them, and then before you know it, they're speaking in tongues out there around the campfire.
I bet.
That was the anointing oil.
That's cool, man. I never even heard of this.
Oh, but yeah, that's there had been some recent like hardcore data, like archaeological data that proved yes, there was this concoction that had these herbs and it had cannabis inside of it, and it was used, and it was found at these ancient Hebrew sites.
That's another big portion of what I would love to discuss with you is cannabis, just above and beyond the recreational purposes. There is medicinal purposes of cannabis, and there are so many different properties. It's like everybody only focuses on THC to get high, to get the euphoria, and then CBD now is super popular because that's been isolated. But there's so much more to it.
Well, let's talk about what is being high. What is being high?
Please do tell.
Why is that the first thing? Why is that the first thing that people think of when they think of marijuana? Like what is being high? And I think it's just as ubiquitous. I think that's the way of saying that someone is drunk. Like it's a term that is explaining a state of being, right?
Right.
And we think of how many times you've used the following statement, and you're either referring to yourself or to another person. Oh, they were drunk. That other person knows what you mean, right? It can excuse either a great amount of behavior or explain a great amount of behavior, right? So it has like
broad spectrum.
So when you say you're high, like you can kind of it can be misleading, right? Um, being high has a duration. It's, you know what I mean? And it literally has like an altitude and a duration and a come down. Like, oh, it really is like an experience.
Yeah, it's like in drugs, they talk about half-lives. Like everything has a certain amount of time where it hits a peak, and then half of it is still in your system, and then it's completely gone. And then you also have to consider bioindividuality. What is it going to do specifically to you? Some people, oh man, they feel great. They're just chill. Other people are hyper paranoid. And that can depend on what strain you're talking about, right? And your biology.
Right now, as we speak, there are teenagers ruining their psychology on high-powered cannabis. Like, let me just say that.
Shit is nuclear nowadays.
There is shit available to teenagers that they are ruining their brains on. Like the dabbing stuff or the high-powered carts.
It's so powerful. It's like,
these
what's
drugs? Like, let's just be clear.
it's concentrated.
Cannabis turned into drugs. Yeah.
Right.
And those kids love it because it's easy to, pirate around and do what they do. I get it. They can drive in their car, they can ride a skateboard, and they got their little vape, and they can sneak it in and out of school in their little hoodie sleeve. Like, we don't know, kids. Like, we don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wish we could have like these little vape zappers, whatever.
It's a great point you're making, because that's exactly the same difference as a farmer chewing on a coca leaf is fine. But when you concentrate it into cocaine powder as a highly potent drug, it's completely different than that farmer that's chewing on a coca leaf to keep him going, working, and help him get through the day. That's completely different. And that's like talking about smoking some real like weed plant that you just, pull the bud off of, as opposed to a dab of highly concentrated THC being this nuclear compound that's going to blow you to another world.
There are some uses for like really strong cannabis oil, right? Like, we obviously, that there are uses for that, right? All types of cancers, and then recovery from cancer treatments, cannabis use, but like light cannabis use, like to deal with nausea or to like make people hungry again that have been using muscle wasting drugs or drugs that have just like ravaged healthy body tissue along with cancerous cells at the same time. Like, there are some applications for like really heavy oils for reduction of arthritis, and also all kinds of disorders like epilepsy, right? Like, and
Oh yeah.
you want to make yourself like the no brains hard sell. If you have to convert someone on the efficacy of medicinal cannabis, is just show them a video of someone in the fits of an epileptic seizure get served high powered cannabis oil, and watch what happens within minutes, and they turn into a normal human being again. Like,
They calm down immediately.
like going off. Yeah. Well, not immediately. There might be even faster acting relief that could be used. The delivery system, once they're in seizure, is really, really difficult, other than like getting something just like in the side of their mouth, right? Because think smoke or do anything if you're just like in the middle of a seizure.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Try. I don't know if like some sort of fucking air, like you could like shotgun them, right? Like, hang on, I'm gonna blow face.
Maybe there's a like
hang on. You bug like the cops busting your door and are taking this huge bomber up. You're like, hang on, it's for my friend. He's having a seizure.
I mean, but maybe there's a way you could do like a nasal spray or
There is some sort of fast acting cannabis thing. I listened to a guy talk about this. They were using it on the battlefield in Afghanistan.
Whoa!
It was about preventing the start of using opioid drugs from onset. If you never use opioids from onset, you don't give the chance for the soldier to get addicted. So they have been searching for ways, like battlefield drugs. How can you treat pain on the battlefield without using opioids? And of course, using cannabis-based drugs that use the cannabinoid system, which is totally different than the opioid system. They were using breakthrough technology for, I think it was some sort of fucking spray they had. This was November of 2015, maybe, when this was going down. So I'm sure it's probably, or maybe this is like 2017, something like that. I don't know. That was the first time at this conference I ever saw crystallized CBD, and I started ordering 100% pure CBD crystal, and I was doing bangers of pure. It looked like fucking crack rock, actually. No, actually, looked like was like really high quality magnesium salts. Like you ever take like bath salt?
I know what you're talking about, where you get the magnesium salts and then the big chunks that you can dump into your bathtub.
Yeah. So they CBD distillate like kind of looks like that. It's like a white chunky rock, and you can put it in baking. You can let it dissolve in water, and you can heat it up to low heat and run it through a rig. You can run it through a bubbler. I haven't done that in a while. All the CBD I take now is all through American Shaman. They make the water soluble nanotech CBD, really fast acting, like starts to work within 90 seconds to 5 minutes.
Yeah, anything that's down to nanoparticle size will absorb fast. I got a question. You're talking about CBD, but I've heard about CBG and CBC and all these different derivatives. What the hell's the difference?
So CBG is kind of like a building block for all things cannabidiol in your body. I have a CBG extract from American Shaman, and it's great. It's taken from really young hemp plants. I started using it to stay healthy during COVID. Is what I started taking it for, because
Whoa, it's an immune booster.
Do you know about what CBG and CBD do to the cell to prevent the COVID virus from penetrating the membrane of the cell? It blocks the spike protein key entry. Yeah. This is
them both combined, CBD and CBG, both? Or can you use one, or do you need both?
It is. I would need to verify that.
Okay.
I forget exactly what cannabidiol molecule does the job.
Well, still, that's interesting to look into for me and anybody else that hears this.
It's called an immune modulator.
Kind of like an adaptogen.
Very much like an adaptogen, like a ginseng or a, what's the other one, the Ayurvedic one? Sometimes makes some people sleepy, but it's a stimulant to me. When I took it, I took a product called KSM 66.
Ashwagandha.
Ashwagandha.
I was about to go look for it because I got it in the next room, but I just remembered. And that's a very specific blend you're talking about. It's a high power and high absorbable blend.
Dude, I found that it does about the same time I found that CBD. I found that KSM 66.
Yeah, that's the best way to take it, folks.
Jason, if I would have had that product when I was an athlete back in the day, bro, dangerous. I'm talking like dangerous, like definitely the most important thing you were putting in your mouth the day of performance. The day before and the day of would be KSM for sure. Performance athlete, you need to learn how to load that product in your body and find out if you have any gut problems with it, because I think it has black pepper in it because it's used as one of those.
It's a potentiator. It'll make it bypass your liver. It makes it where your body actually absorbs more into your bloodstream and it doesn't get diluted or eliminated.
So that's the idea with the biopurine product that you always see in the curcumin products,
Yep.
the turmeric extract.
Yep.
Okay. And I know KSM 66, that's one of the major problems that I had with it was the gut intolerance to the black pepper. But I've started to find out once you got it loaded in your body, you didn't have to take as much. You know, it's kind of like one of those herbs, just like ginseng. You can take high quality ginseng if you're a runner or some sort of endurance athlete, if you're doing triathlon, anything like that, where you're hardcore, like your heart's going to be going for a good rate of ginseng does something to your blood pressure where it just makes it easier for your heart to move blood. I don't know what the trick is there.
I have never done a deep dive on exactly the mechanisms of action on ginseng.
Something happens there that just is helping your body create more oxygen-rich blood, because it also does something too with helping your immune system create more white blood cells. And I'm specifically
both are awesome for you.
The Siberian ginseng, or what's called eleuthero ginseng. It's like Russian ginseng, basically. And they keep, dude. Let me tell you something about this.
Dude, I remember back in the day, you were a wicked athlete. No matter what anybody thinks now, you're not just the psychedelic and plant guru. You used to actually be a badass athlete when you were young.
But yeah, let me rewind the clock and go back there, like whatever. My coach, when I was in college, my sprint coach, she was from Russia, Galina Bukarina.
Them Russians are badass. I don't care what anybody says.
Dude, she has multiple beautiful daughters, man. She's an amazing lady. So check this out. Dude, you want to talk? Let me tell you about an amazing woman, dude. First of all, she fled Russia. Okay, when it was through the Iron Curtain, like she snuck out with her kids.
Difficult times to do that,
daughter. Yeah, I think she had already been an international traveler because she herself was a professional athlete. She was she actually ran at the 1968 Olympics for Russia and got third place in the 4x1 relay. So she was awesome, dude. She was like, 4'10", and it was hilarious, right? Everybody loved her. She's Coach G. And when I started doing well, like became like her top dog, she would say, "Daniel, come here," and we'd go meet, over in some quiet corner, and she would hand me some pills, and she said, "Oh shit, drink plenty of water, Red." And she says, "Don't."
Like, oh boy, I got some steroids.
No. What she was giving me, bro, what she ended up showing me this. She had doctors ship her medical grade Siberian ginseng on dry ice that was in their special formula, like in gelatin blocks. And she would slice up these little blocks and put them into these little capsule pills that we take. This is how much she believed in Siberian ginseng, dude. This is where I learned it, was in college. I've never used anything else in terms of running, particularly sprinting, that is a legal performance aid other than Siberian ginseng. It's that good.
And you'll probably never find anything as good as what that Russian lady was giving to you.
Stuff that was grown in a lab.
Yeah, you were getting the pure,
They
unadulterated.
took it very, very serious.
Is the real deal. Yeah.
Okay, so this is what she does now. Yeah, I 100% trust this lady. She would never give us anything illegal. Multiple All-Americans under her belt, Olympians.
Mm-hmm.
She's a national coach and the Olympic coach for India, the national like Olympic team for India. She is the sprinting coach. Since she took over there like 2 years ago, they have complete.
Your audio just cut out, Daniel. And we're right about the time that I'm going to need to cut anyways. So you want to catch back up for another one another time? Well, folks, we have a technical difficulty. Daniel has lost his audio. We appreciate him being here for this conversation. It's been super interesting. There's so much more I want to talk about. I feel like we've only scratched the surface. So thanks, Daniel, for joining in, man. Sad that we lost our audio here at the end, but hey, that's the way it goes sometimes with technology. We'll catch up for another one. Thanks, Daniel. And we'll see you on the next episode of Keeping It Real, man. Later.
Keeping it real.